Not every MSC ship gives you the same cruise. The logo on the funnel is identical. The booking process is the same, but the gap between the best and the worst in this fleet is wider than most passengers ever expect. This ranking is not about newest versus oldest. Every ship is judged on the overall value it delivers: cabin feel, pool deck, dining, family appeal, and whether the ship itself is a reason to book. Some of these entries will surprise you. Number 23, MSC Magnifica. MSC Magnifica is the awkward middle child of this entire fleet. It is not old enough to carry the kind of weathered character that some passengers find appealing on a classic ship, and it's not modern enough to feel exciting when you compare it with what MSC has launched in the last several years. A summer 2026 upgrade is in the pipeline, and that story has already made its way into the promotional material, which is part of the problem. For most passengers booking right now, Magnifica still sits in an uncomfortable in-between space that the marketing papers over rather than resolves. The real danger is not that it is obviously bad. The real danger is that it looks reasonable on paper. A fair fare and a family itinerary are enough to convince most passengers they're getting more than they really are. Verdict? Avoid. Number 22, MSC Armonia. The case against Armonia is not that it is a disaster at sea. It's not. But the case for it is very thin unless the fare is genuinely cheap, and even then you need to arrive with the right expectations firmly in place. Armonia is smaller, older, and lighter on the wow factor that most people are looking for when they book an MSC sailing. The brand has built its reputation on scale and big ship energy. Armonia delivers almost none of that. The opportunity cost is the real issue here. MSC now has ships that are dramatically better in almost every category, and the price gap between old and new is often smaller than passengers assume when they are scanning for the cheapest available fare. Verdict? Avoid. Number 21, MSC Lyrica. Lyrica's identity, if it has one, is quiet. Fewer passengers, smaller footprint, less noise around the pool. Some people find that appealing, and they're not wrong to. But here's the thing. Quiet on a smaller ship is not the same as peaceful on a well-designed newer one. On Lyrica, the quiet often comes from a lack of things to do rather than a sense of considered calm. The spa is modest. The entertainment options are thin. On a sea day when the weather turns, you will notice what's missing in a way that you would not on almost any other ship in the top 15 of this list. Verdict? Only if the price or itinerary is right. Number 20, MSC Opera. Opera has a specific kind of passenger, and that passenger is someone who booked it almost entirely for the ports. They're going to Kotor or Dubrovnik or somewhere else that carries enough weight to make the ship irrelevant. And on that logic, Opera actually works. You sleep in it, you eat on it, you leave it every morning. The problem is that not every itinerary delivers that kind of port-heavy justification, and on a sea-heavy sailing with less to look forward to each morning, Opera has very little to offer in its place. The ship asks nothing of you and gives back roughly the same. Verdict? Only if the price or itinerary is right. Number 19, MSC Sinfonia. Sinfonia's problem is not that it's bad. The problem is that it's almost completely invisible as an experience. Most passengers who have sailed it struggle to recall specific things about the ship itself, and that is not a comment on their memory. It is a comment on what Sinfonia leaves behind. At 7 nights or 14 nights, the lack of a distinct onboard identity starts to feel like a slow drain. You board, you sail, you disembark. Very little in between gives the ship its own personality. That blankness is not neutral. In a competitive market, it's a cost. Verdict? Only if the price and itinerary is right. Number 18, MSC Orchestra. Orchestra is the scale illusion entry on this list. It's large enough to look like a serious ship in photos, large enough to handle multiple restaurants and a theater and a proper pool deck, large enough that you might assume it sits comfortably in the modern MSC tier. It does not. The size is real. The experience that should accompany that size is not fully there. The dining variety spreads thin over a full week. The entertainment feels like it was designed for a smaller audience. Orchestra promises more than the older compact ships and delivers less than the newer larger ones, which leaves it stranded in a space that is harder to justify the more carefully you look at it. Verdict: only if the price or itinerary is right. Number 17. MSC Musica. Musica is the ship that trips people up the most in this part of the fleet because it feels acceptable right up until the moment it does not. If you've never sailed a newer MSC ship, Musica will pass. The main restaurant is fine. The pool area works. The cabin is functional. But passengers who have been on Bellissima or Meraviglia and then step onto Musica for a second sailing often describe the same thing: a deflation they cannot quite place. The ship has not changed, their frame of reference has. That sensitivity to comparison is exactly why it sits where it does. Verdict: only if the price and itinerary is right. Number 16. MSC Poesia. Poesia is the closest thing in this lower tier to a ship with actual warmth. The interiors have a more considered feel than the ships immediately below it. The overall atmosphere sits a notch above clinical. If you squint at Poesia in the right light and the right itinerary, you can almost talk yourself into it. That's both its strength and its trap. People who book Poesia often do so because it looked better than the alternatives at the price point, and they're not entirely wrong. What they discover is that almost making it and making it are not the same thing, and Poesia lives in that gap more permanently than any other ship on this list. Verdict: only if the price and itinerary is right. Number 15. MSC Fantasia. This is where the ranking starts to stabilize. Fantasia is a bigger ship with bigger public spaces, and the jump in scale produces a real change in what the ship feels like to live on across a full sailing. For the first time on this list, you get something that resembles a genuine resort at sea, rather than a cruise on a mid-sized vessel with limited amenity coverage. The atmosphere is different. The variety is different. The sense that the ship was built to accommodate a full range of passenger types is different. The important note here is that the tone of this ranking shifts from this point. The sections below were warnings. From here, the conversation is about trade-offs between decent ships and better ones. Verdict: decent. Number 14. MSC Splendida. Splendida edges above Fantasia for reasons that are not dramatic, but are real. It's a more polished version of a similar experience. Slightly more coherent in layout, slightly more convincing as a week-long proposition when sea days arrive and you're looking for things to do. Some ships rise in a ranking not because they do something spectacular, but because they're a little easier to live with across a full sailing. Splendida is that kind of ship. The gap to Fantasia is genuine, but not enormous, and if you find Splendida at a comparable fare, the upgrade is worth taking. Verdict: decent. Number 13. MSC Preziosa. Preziosa belongs to a generation when MSC was getting more serious about what a mainstream cruise product should actually look like, and that step forward is visible throughout the ship. You can book Preziosa and have a genuinely good trip without apologizing for your ship choice at any point during the week. The freshness and excitement of MSC's better classes is still missing, and the ship lives comfortably in the middle ground between fine and genuinely exciting. But comfortable is no longer something to dismiss in a fleet this large, and Preziosa occupies its position on this list honestly. Verdict: decent. Number 12. MSC Divina. Divina has more personality than most ships that land around it in a ranking like this. There's a presence to it that feels designed to be noticed rather than merely occupied, and that quality has a real effect on how a sailing feels from day one. Passengers who have sailed Divina tend to remember it more warmly than the numbers alone would suggest, and that emotional quality is part of what pushes it ahead here. The caveat is genuine. Elegance carries you only so far once newer ships begin offering more complete experiences across every dimension. Divina is worth sailing if the route is right. It is not the ship you would choose with full flexibility and an open calendar. Verdict: decent. Number 11. MSC Seaside. This is where the fleet becomes genuinely interesting. Seaside represents a design philosophy that is visually distinct from the older MSC generation, with a dramatically stronger emphasis on outdoor spaces and warm weather cruising. The promenades, the aft terraces, and the overall relationship the ship creates between passenger and ocean feels like a real statement of intent rather than an afterthought. For warm weather itineraries, Seaside has genuine appeal and a different energy from anything below it on this list. The main point is that later ships took this formula and refined it considerably, which is why Seaside lands at 11. The idea works. The execution on ships that followed works better. Verdict: decent. Hey, like and subscribe, because this is where the ranking changes. From here on, it's not about avoiding the wrong MSC ship. It's about choosing which of the good ones fits your kind of cruise best. Number 10. MSC Seashore. Seashore is the anchor ship of the top half of this fleet. It gives you enough MSC energy to have a very good trip, and the gap between Seashore and everything below it is meaningful and felt from the first day aboard. The venue mix is strong. The outdoor spaces are well designed. But once you start comparing it seriously with the ships above it, you notice exactly where the experience still falls short. Seashore shows what the upper tier looks like without fully delivering it, and that position on this list is precisely right. Verdict: decent. Number 9. MSC Seaview. Seaview is a more convincing warm weather ship than many passengers expect before they board it. The outdoor heavy formula works here at a level that feels genuinely compelling, rather than just directionally interesting. The key point about Seaview is one that applies to several ships on this list. The design has to match the itinerary. Put it on the right route in the right climate and it makes a great deal of sense. The reason it sits below MSC's top tier is that the ships above it offer that same warm weather quality alongside a stronger overall guest experience in every other direction. Verdict: decent. Number 8. MSC Meraviglia. Meraviglia is the gateway entry. It's the first ship on this list where the conversation stops being about what you're tolerating and starts being about what you're enjoying. The indoor promenade is the specific thing that changes the calculation. A covered, climate-controlled social spine that means a rainy sea day on Meraviglia and a rainy sea day on any ship below it are completely different propositions. Add a proper mix of specialty restaurants, a functioning entertainment program, and cabins that feel like they belong in the current decade, and you have a ship that delivers what most people picture when they imagine a modern cruise. And that is not a small thing. Verdict: strong book. Number 7. MSC Grandiosa. Where Meraviglia feels like a statement, Grandiosa feels like a ship that has settled into knowing exactly what it is. The layout is tighter. The flow between venues is more intuitive. The specialty dining program is broader. MSC had figured out by the time Grandiosa launched what worked and what did not from the Meraviglia generation, and the adjustments show. This is the ship that travel agents tend to default to when a client wants modern MSC without a strong personal preference for something specific. It rarely disappoints. It rarely produces complaints. And in a fleet this large, that consistency is its own form of excellence. Verdict? Strong book. Number 6. MSC Bellissima. Bellissima is where MSC's visual identity clicked into focus. This ship does not just have a promenade. It has a promenade with the kind of lighting and spatial drama that makes passengers stop mid-walk to take a photo. The Zoe virtual assistant was new at launch and generated real attention. The overall design language across public spaces feels like a brand that finally committed to an aesthetic rather than assembling one. Above Grandiosa in this ranking because Bellissima is the more visually distinctive sailing. Passengers who care about the feel and appearance of where they spend their time aboard will notice the difference. Verdict? Strong book. Number 5. MSC Virtuosa. Virtuosa sits above Bellissima for one specific reason. It's a better ship for a mixed group. A family with teenagers, grandparents, and a couple of adults who want different things from a week at sea will find more working simultaneously on Virtuosa than on almost anything else in this fleet. The MSC Yacht Club is strong. The kids' facilities are strong. The entertainment programming covers more territory. Bellissima is the more striking ship to photograph. Virtuosa is the more satisfying ship to actually sail with people who want different things. In a ranking built on value for the average passenger, that breadth matters. Verdict? Strong book. Number 4. MSC Seascape. Seascape beats Virtuosa for one reason that is specific and defensible. If your itinerary is warm water, Seascape is a purpose-built experience for that environment, and Virtuosa is not. The difference between an outdoor-led ship designed around a beach club philosophy and a well-rounded ship that also has outdoor spaces is real and felt across every day of the sailing. The aft terraces on Seascape give you direct ocean access at sea. The pool configuration is built for sun and not just shade. The social architecture of the ship pulls you outside rather than indoors. On a Caribbean or Gulf sailing in good weather, there's no other MSC ship that matches what Seascape does with those conditions. Virtuosa is the better ship for a cold weather Baltic itinerary, but Seascape is the better ship for almost everywhere else in the top 4 of this list's natural markets. Verdict? Must book. Number 3. MSC World America. World America is massive, bold, and very easy to sell. The scale communicates ambition from the moment you see it in port, and the modern mega ship experience it delivers is genuinely competitive at the highest level of the industry, rather than just impressive by MSC's own standards. Some passengers will prefer a slightly more balanced layout or a more classic feel, and that preference is entirely valid. But if someone wants the biggest, newest, most event-scale version of an MSC sailing currently available, this ship is a serious and well-considered answer to that request. The venues are varied. The entertainment programming is built for a ship of this size. The overall energy is one that rewards passengers who want to spend time aboard rather than just sleep between ports. It sits at 3 rather than higher by a narrow margin only. The 2 ships above it are exceptional in ways that matter for a broader range of passengers, and that is the only reason World America is not higher. The verdict? Must book. Number 2. MSC World Europa. World Europa is the most audacious ship MSC has ever built. It's the first cruise ship in the world to run on liquefied natural gas at this scale, and the design reflects that ambition in every direction. The hull profile is unmistakable. The internal architecture feels like it was designed for a documentary about the future of travel rather than a week between Mediterranean ports. If you want the single most impressive boarding experience in the MSC fleet, Europa delivers it without competition. The reason it finishes second is not about the hardware, it's about the itinerary fit. Europa shines in the Gulf and in markets where the weather cooperates with its outdoor-led bias. In cooler northern European waters, the balance tips toward a ship that works harder in every climate. The verdict? Must book. Number 1. MSC Euribia. Euribia wins for a reason that becomes obvious the moment you look at the whole fleet together. World Europa is a better ship in certain conditions. Seascape is a better ship on specific warm weather routes. World America is the bigger event. But Euribia is the only ship in this top tier that you can drop into almost any itinerary and have it perform at the highest level. The indoor promenade works on a January Baltic sailing. The yacht club is among the strongest in the entire MSC fleet, with a private pool, dedicated restaurant, and butler service that holds up against the best premium brands. The LNG propulsion matches Europa's environmental credentials. The cabin quality across all categories is more consistent than World America's. And unlike the outdoor-led ships above Seascape, Euribia does not need the weather to cooperate to deliver its best day. In a ranking built on who you would send the widest range of passengers to with the fewest conditions attached, Euribia answers that question more completely than anything else in the fleet. That is why it's number 1. Verdict? Must book. Like and subscribe if this helped, because now you know which MSC ships are worth chasing and which ones are only worth booking when the price is good enough. Click the video on screen for the next cruise breakdown. The smartest trips start long before embarkation day. Do the research first, book smarter, and remember, your voyage is just beginning.